Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm more than happy to take questions. I just ask if you've got a question, please stand up when I call on you and just tell me your first name. I'll come to you in a second, Mr. Soule. I've seen this young lady in the green shirt. What's your name?
My name's Sandy.
Hello, Sandy.
I just wanted to ask you how you got this love of America when you were from another country.
The question was, how did I fall in love with America when I came from another country? And I'm fond of saying that I was an American trapped in an Australian body for 32 years. When I think about America and I think about all of the things that make America America, it's me. I've always wanted to be a philanthropic person. America is the most philanthropic country in the world. I've always been someone that is motivated and inspired. I start every morning with Tony Robbins. Every time I go past Philadelphia, I can't resist getting out and running up the art museum steps like Rocky did. So I love the motivation and the inspiration and the optimism of the United States. I'm a Christian, and the only industrialized country in the world that's actually religious is the United States of America. When I think about all of those things that make America, I've never wanted to conform. I've never wanted to have my personality downsized. These are all things that perhaps only an outsider can appreciate, but a spectator sees more of the game. And in so many ways, the virtues and the values that make this country so different and so special are the virtues and values that just inherently for me, I was drawn to. The other reason, of course, is that when I was 16, I'm a stage 4 cancer survivor. When I was 16 months old, I was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a very rare form of childhood cancer. And any child or infant with stage 4 neuroblastoma is given just a 5% chance of life. Only 1 in 20 survive. And my mum and dad had been taking me to doctors and pediatricians everywhere in late 1985, and nobody could tell them what was wrong with me. Australia only had a population of about 12 million people at the time, and obviously it was a rare cancer, and people just didn't recognize it. Anyway, on the 23rd of December, 1985, just a couple of days before Christmas, I was more unsettled than usual, and my parents took me to the local children's hospital, to the emergency ward. And there was an overnight doctor there. He was a young man, and he was an American doctor that had recently finished his degree and was just in Australia for a summer internship. And he looked me over and he said to my parents, he said, "Look, I don't know, but I think I might have seen this before. I have a hunch that this is what it is. I think that your kid has got this thing called neuroblastoma, and from what I can see, it looks really advanced. I don't know how advanced, but it looks very advanced. And you need to get him in first thing tomorrow morning for tests at 8 a.m. And he gave my parents the specific tests that I would have to undergo. And the very next day, my parents' worst fears would be confirmed. And I had stage 4 neuroblastoma, and that set off 3.5 years of chemotherapy and radiotherapy and an operation. The tumor was in my abdomen. And back in the 1980s, they didn't have the doses exactly right for chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and so they always erred on the side of caution by giving too much. And so obviously when you have all of those drugs, as I'm sure many of you would know from personal experience, it kills the good stuff as well as the bad stuff. And I'm shorter than what I should be, and I was never able to play contact sports, but other than that, I have lived a full and complete life. And I tell you what it did do. It really gave me a love and an appreciation and a gratitude for life that has been with me ever since. I never waste a single second of a minute, of an hour, of a day, of a month, of a year, ever. And I've been unstoppable since that time, and I largely attribute it to that early adversity. I was the valedictorian of my school. I was publicly elected to political office as a councilman at the age of 19 in the Sydney area. I became the youngest deputy mayor in Australian history, a record that still stands, just 8 days after my 21st birthday. I was a best-selling author before I turned the age of 30. And so, but without the American doctor's diagnosis, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. So I'm fond of saying that I haven't only studied American exceptionalism. I've lived it. In fact, I'm alive because of it. And I believe that God spared my life for a reason, and I think that that reason is for me to be here doing what I'm doing, so it's really good. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Mimi. I want to know, number one, how you get into the schools.
Yes.
And number two, if somebody wants to be one of your people and do it on your behalf, how do we do that?
Okay, well, thank you very much for both of those questions. So FLAG is still very much in its infancy because obviously I started this once I became permanent resident here in the United States. And so it's really only been going 6 months. So at the moment, I'm the only speaker, and at the moment, the ways that we get into schools are very unstructured. So if we get a tip that there is a school that we can get into, whether someone has a child or a grandchild that is a student or a member of faculty, or we know someone on the school board, we go through that way. Obviously, as we grow and we get more professional, I was just working on this on Monday when we were working on our business plan and our 5-year projection and everything else. We are going to have a much better and more professional way of getting into the schools and using certain criteria. As for the speakers, I have decided that the unfortunate reality is this, and there's been a big shift, I think, because you know I'm not necessarily old at all, but I know that even 15 years ago when I was in my mid-teens, I had a lot of respect for older people. The teachers that I most fondly remember were those disciplinarians that were 60 years old and 70 years old. Unfortunately, though, children of today, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media and other things, they can only relate to other young people. It's an unfortunate reality. So those are I only want college-age students being what we're going to do is we're going to put these potential instructors through what we call our Flagship Academy, and once you graduate from Flagship Academy you become a flag ambassador. And so pretty soon I'm going to be calling for applicants. I want to poach the best and the brightest college students right around the country, the most well presented, the most articulate, and I want to train them up. So we're going to pilot that with just 3 speakers at first, because automatically that is 3 times as much as what we've got at the moment, because I'm the only one who's been going into school so far, and unfortunately there is a limit to what I can do, and it's really important that we don't turn down any. I have a list of you wouldn't believe it. There are in my inbox right now there are at least 16 schools that I have to get back to that have written to me and said we'd like FLAG to come in and implement their program at our school. So we are growing. The growth is going to be exponential. It's going very quickly, more quickly than what I can actually put up with at the moment. But that's a good problem to have, and we're getting a lot of traction. I don't know how many of you know this or saw this, but just 11 days ago, on the 3rd of March, President Donald Trump gave me a rare distinction, and I had some history bestowed upon me. It was the first time that a sitting president of the United States has ever endorsed an author's work. And he tweeted out for the world to see that they should read my book, Green Card Warrior. It's a best-selling book when it came out in November. It's now a best-selling book again after Donald Trump's tweet. And I was on the front page of every major newspaper in the world. And as a result of that, FLAG has really gone already to the next level. So we're looking to capitalize on that and really take our operations to the next step. Yes, Mr. Sule, you had a question.
Yeah, I did. Really appreciate your coming. Kind of the thought that I've had is we have a lot of good conservatives, some Christians here as well, all involved in different aspects here in Santa Clara County and California where the political climate is difficult. And we want to major on the majors, and part of the thrust of my question is this. We're all sort of alienated. We all have, well, we're tax party we're Tea Party people, we're concerned about taxes, we're concerned about religious liberties, we're concerned about other conservative things. What would you say to encourage conservatives to come together, maybe ultimately in some parent organization, where we could thrust on the major things, such as certain freedoms, the Second Amendment? They wouldn't necessarily have to get all that involved in that, but at least somehow expand our voice, like committees of correspondence during our revolution, where we can come together more effectively than we are now in this area and be more effective. Any thoughts on that?
Look, I think there's a lot of merit to that idea. I think that we need to be unified. One of the things that the left does a lot better than us is that they're able to unify far more. There's a lot more competition among conservatives, probably because we believe in competition, but that actually works against us sometimes. And I think there is a lot of merit to setting up an organisation, having a patriotic task force, if you will, that is dedicated to certain principles that we can promote and all get behind, because there is a lot of synergy, there is a lot of common ground that we can embrace, and I'm really in favour of anything that will allow us to present a stronger, more united, impenetrable force up against a very organised, very well-funded left. Yes, ma'am.
So, well, my name is Mimi, and like you,
It's a wonderful... What was your name? Mimi. Ming Yi. It's a wonderful observation, Ming Yi, and you're exactly right. Look, the incredible thing about America is you get to choose who you want to be. So in Australia, my mother is German, and my father was born in Australia, but his parents were Greek. And so my last name was Adamopoulos. But it was anglicised by my grandparents when they came to Australia, because what you did was, back in those days, you wanted to fit in. And so you took every measure that you could to fit in. Now, though, things have completely changed. And your ethnic heritage becomes your personality in Australia, in Germany, in Switzerland, in England, in all of those places. And so now we have the problem in Australia and elsewhere where second and third born Australian Greeks are more Greek than what their parents and their grandparents were. So it's almost like a reverse engineering, and that's because of the radical multiculturalism that has been embraced and inculcated in the minds of so many people. It's boring not to have an ethnic heritage in these other countries. I can tell you that what's amazing to me is when you here in the United States, see, the first question anyone will ask you if you're traveling in Australia and you happen to have a different skin complexion, someone like me, when you meet someone and you're socialising for the first time, they'll ask you where you're from. And it always offended me, because I'm an Australian when I was an Australian. But that's not a question that's ever asked here. You know why? Because here it's about subscribing to an idea. Here it's about subscribing to a set of principles, a set of values. And the American contract, that's what you're expected to sign, even though it's not a physical document, but you're expected to sign it in mind and in spirit, that the American contract is both uninterested and disinterested in where you come from and what you do. All the American contract is concerned about is that you believe in the Constitution, that you love America, that you're going to contribute, and that you're going to become part of the fabric. America is not just a place for someone to park. It's not just somewhere where you can come and recreate the life that you had elsewhere. There's got to be a cultural buy-in. You've got to come here to be an American. You've got to come here to do all of those things. And so I have to I'm with you, Ming Yi. When I hear people say that America's a racist place, it's hilarious, because this is the least racist place imaginable. When Americans look at each other, they don't look and say, well, where are you from? And, where did you come from? None of that. You're an American. Who cares? In most cases, it's more interesting what state you came from or were born in. Oh, I'm a Californian. I'm a Texan. I'm a, You know, that usually is where the conversation goes. So, look, e pluribus unum, the only country in the world that subscribes to e pluribus unum out of many one is America. In the rest of the world, you come as an immigrant from somewhere and you can be 5 or 6 generations down the track. Take the Turkish people in Germany. Turkish people in Germany are still Turkish, even though they've lived in Germany since the 1930s. I mean, it's amazing. But traditionally, and I know that it's slightly starting to change now, but in America, the minute that I immigrated to the United States is the minute that I became an American. I didn't need to have citizenship. I didn't need to have any of that stuff. My idea is once you permanently move somewhere, you immediately become that place. I didn't come to America to be an Australian. I see all of these Australians that live here in the United States, and they'll go and they'll get together with other Australians to watch cricket. I mean, I came here for hot dogs and baseball, and you know, I mean, I came here for chicken fried steak and belt buckles and jacked up pickup trucks and Bluebell ice cream and all the good stuff. I mean, I don't know why you would go somewhere else to kind of hang on to what you had. It makes no sense to me. Obviously, there was something that attracted you to that place in the first place, and you know, if you want to come here and not be part of that place, well, you should just get out. Yes, ma'am. Last question. Could you stand, please?
My name is Colleen, and I'm finding, and maybe it's just California, I'm not sure, that isn't true here anymore. People come here, we have a school on Morgan Hill, the kids had to turn their t-shirts inside out because they had American And people don't learn the language. You go into any grocery store and you think that you're somewhere else because nobody's speaking English.
It's a big problem.
And it's really a big problem. And is it here just...
It is. Well, yes, I believe so, Colleen. Look, I think everywhere it's getting a little bit worse, but I think that you're really seeing a massive manifestation of it here in California. I have the great luxury through the work that I do of seeing a lot of America, and I can tell you that I still think it's California in that sense is the exception to the rule. I think that people generally do tend to be American more so than anything else. But yes, the stories about, you know, it's always amazed me when you go to do your driver's license that you can do your driving test in so many different languages, because I've only ever seen street signs in English. I don't know. I've never seen a stop sign in Spanish or a stop sign in Cantonese or a stop sign in Greek. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. So, but unfortunately, again, this is part of the leftist agenda. The reality is that if you believe in everything, you believe in nothing. And I think that it's not unreasonable or illogical at all to expect those that want to come to America to speak English, to contribute. We only want the best coming to the United States. We don't need the B team from anywhere. And, you know, we want this to remain the exceptional country on this earth. And to do so, we need to be vigilant in who we let in and who we allow to be a part of the American idea. Yes. Okay, so guys, I am going to be up the back, I think, up toward, there you go, in that corner over there. So I have, so you're going to love the United States government, which the post office is part of. So my books were sent to to Jane Kearney's home address last Wednesday, but for some reason, they were meant to arrive yesterday, but for some reason they have not. But that's okay. That's okay, because they're going to be, when she goes home, they're going to be on her front porch. So, but that's okay. Because this is America and we're all ingenious, we've come up with a way to get around that. So we have got labels that I am going to sign, and then Jane's going to very easily be able to just slot them into where the book would ordinarily be signed. Okay, so it's the same. So, okay, I have three best-selling books. The first was The American Boomerang, How the World's Greatest Turnaround Nation Will Do It Again, a foreword by Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. It was endorsed by Mike Huckabee, the Heritage Foundation, a slew of others. The one which I'm most proud of is Chuck Norris. So that was the American Boomerang, How the World's Greatest Turnaround Nation Will Do It Again. My second best-selling book was Retaking America, Crushing Political Correctness. That had a foreword by Dennis Prager. That was endorsed by Dana Perino, the NRA, Lieutenant Colonel Ollie North, Ben Carson, and many others. And then my third book, the most recent, is the one that I've referenced and the one that only needed one endorsement, and that is President Donald J. Trump. Green Card Warrior, My Quest for Legal Immigration in an Illegal System. And it documents my personal story about coming here and going through that persecution at the hands of the State Department and being unable to travel to the United States for a period of time. So the books are going to be $25 each, or we're going to do a really great special, all three for $50.